Good evening, everyone. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers TV. That's me. 145 days to college football. We hope and pray. 145 days until college football. Just got off the line with our LSU contributor, Lon Philip Sullivan. The first thing he asked me was, do you miss sports? Do you guys miss sports? I had to be honest. I said, haven't really thought about it. Do I miss sports? I guess I don't. I'm a huge baseball fan. At least I used to be a huge, enormous baseball fan. Took in all the stats, knew everybody. When I mean everybody, I knew everybody in the majors. Everybody. I just don't really have the time, nor do I feel that it warrants the value of spending that much time watching baseball or keeping track of Major League Baseball. So yes, I still love baseball, still love the sport of baseball. And I guess I would miss it if I thought of it, but it didn't cross my mind that it would be baseball season right now until my son said something to me this afternoon. The Major League Baseball season would be about a week old right now. And I also saw a comment from an old ESPN colleague on Facebook the other day that started a discussion back and forth about baseball season. Otherwise, it just kind of passed me by. But 145 days until college football, we believe, we hope, we pray that would be a good thing. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is our set off-season schedule, our live stream schedule, 10 o'clock Eastern time every Sunday night. Until we are able to upgrade our call-in process, I'm not using my mic, as I haven't the last couple of call-in shows. Therefore, we are able to better hear you. There was a question that I threw out the other day in light of what's going on with COVID-19. What would you do as a college football fan to guarantee that there would be a 2020 college football season? What would you do? What would you sacrifice? What would you pay? What measures would you take to guarantee a 2020 college football season? Tony Gerdeman from the Ozone, during our Ohio State live stream on Friday, came up with a great counterpunch to that question. All right, take this one in. Think about this one. Would you guarantee a loss? Would you take a loss against your rival this football season? Would you take a loss against your rival to guarantee a 2020 college football season? So if you're a Clemson fan, whether you consider your biggest rival to be South Carolina, I think most traditional Clemson fans would say South Carolina is the rival. Maybe others that are considering recent years would name Florida State. You are going to lose this game against either South Carolina or Florida State to guarantee a full 2020 college football season. Would you do it? Tony Gerdeman from the Ozone, writing for Ohio State football fans, put that on his Twitter page as a poll. And just about 90% of the respondents, Ohio State fans, said, we are not losing to Michigan under any circumstances. No. We will bypass the season, sacrifice the season. We cannot lose to Michigan. After winning 14 times in the last 15 years against the team up north, Ohio State fans could still not bear to lose to the Maize and Blue. Now, Michigan fans, maybe on the other hand, would be willing to say, you know what? To guarantee that we actually get to see college football in 2020, yeah, we'll take that loss to Ohio State. It's probably coming anyway. You know what? It is coming anyway, so we might as well just take it, and we can guarantee that there's going to be a 2020 college football season. So that is my question out to you, that as a football fan of whatever team, would you take a loss to your rival to guarantee a season this year? Like, comment, share the videos out on social media. Also, subscribe to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you don't subscribe, you don't get the notifications. If you subscribe, you turn on the bell, you get the notifications, and you know when we're going live. Which, of course, here's the off-season live stream schedule. Florida State Seminoles live. That's the only thing we can get right. Oh, we actually get everything right here. That's the only thing that we can get on a regular basis set in stone. Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern time for 45 consecutive weeks. 45 consecutive weeks with Jason Parker from NBC6 and Logan Robinson from Knoll Game Day. Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. The Ohio State and Miami shows each and every week float depending on schedules. And for the past several weeks, we have given you a Notre Dame live stream on Monday nights. Mondays at 6 o'clock Eastern time, and I believe we will be able to deliver that tomorrow as well. Call-in shows right now, also Friday at noon Eastern time. So the deal is, if you follow me on Twitter, we have been posting polls almost on a daily basis. So if you follow me on Twitter, then you have the right to send me a question, and I will feature it as one of our polls as the Voice of College Football poll. We've had some really good polls recently, and this serves up another question for you folks. So we've had 6 years of the college football playoff. Alabama and Clemson, of course, have won 2 national championships each, the other 2 going to Ohio State and LSU. Only 4 schools have won national championships during the playoff era. Who do you believe is going to be the next team? Who is going to be the next team, other than those 4, to win a national championship? And, of course, our call-in number is 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. Let's get to the comments. We're up to 45 comments. I better get with it. Kyle, it's good to see you. Wonder how many times this woo flu comes up in this show. Well, you have guaranteed that it be twice. I think I brought it up once. So, Kyle, thank you. Nate, good to see you. Michigan fan. Nate, would you take a loss against Ohio State to ensure a college football season for 2020? Got a call coming in here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Hey, who's on the line tonight? Caller number 1.
What's up, Mark? How you doing? It's DeAndre.
Hey, DeAndre. I would not
How you doing?
not miss your voice, sir. I would have known.
Oh.
No doubt about that.
Okay.
How are you doing these days?
Good, man. I know it's kind of crazy up there in your area with this, whatever, how COVID-19 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm glad to know that you're safe, and hopefully the rest of your family is safe and they're doing good too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. I appreciate that, DeAndre.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I heard you mention. I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm doing great. I work at a prison, so as a case manager, so I have to go to work no matter what. So it's crazy unless you get sick, but you got to go to work. But I heard you mention who's Clemson's rival, and I know you had said South Carolina, Florida State, and I think I did a video on this recently, like a couple of months ago, and I was telling people Georgia Tech is Clemson's probably biggest rival.
Georgia Tech.
And yes.
Okay.
Let me tell you a couple of reasons why. Georgia Tech won a national championship in 1991. The winner of 91.
1990.
1990.
Yes.
Well, if you go back and look at that season, that was Clemson, one of the best Clemson teams that they had before, the recent run. They had LeVon Kirkland and people like that. And they beat Illinois who was the only team that beat Colorado that year, to Virginia 20-7. And my point is, if Clemson would have beat Georgia Tech, which they lost to 20-19 that year, they would have had a chance to win the national championship. But Clemson would have only had one loss, just like Colorado had one loss that year. And Clemson would have beat Illinois, who beat Colorado. And then there's several other games I can go through. Early 2000s where Clemson was looking like when the term Clemson came along, looking like they were going to be pretty good. And they would lose to Georgia Tech right before they played Florida State. A couple of the years where Joe Hamilton was there. They had some pretty good games for Georgia Tech. And it's closer in proximity. And the only reason why I say it's not Florida State, I understand South Carolina, but the only reason why I say Florida State is not it, because Florida State don't look at Clemson as a rival. I don't think they do.
I think we've come up with our next poll, DeAndre. We've come up with our next poll. Who is Clemson's biggest rival? South Carolina, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and they give you 4 spots for polls on Twitter, so we could come up with another one. But those would be the 3 that I would come up with.
Yeah, and then if you look up to 2000 and all 2000s, I'm sorry, let me slow down. If you look at when Georgia Tech joined the ACC, I think it was sometime in the late 80s, early 80s. The rivalry is 17-16. They had stopped playing from 1977 to 1983 for whatever reason, but those games have always been close. I know Georgia Tech owns a 50-31 rivalry lead, but those games have always been close though. If you look from 2002 to 96, there's always was only a 2-point difference in those games. So those games have been very close between Clemson and Georgia Tech, and they've been 17-16 versus each ever since Georgia Tech joined the ACC. Now, before that, when World War II happened, Georgia Tech owned Clemson, but Clemson, outside of the military academies, was sending more people to World War II. So Georgia Tech took advantage of that situation. So I think that's their biggest rival right there.
I've got to say that just here in the last couple of years, and I consider myself close to a historian in some respects. Maybe that's a little bit lofty status, but certainly a college football buff that goes back through history with anybody that I know. I was taken off guard about this Georgia Tech rivalry up until a few years ago. That didn't really register with me.
Right. It's 2011, Clemson. 2012, Clemson. I'm looking at the scores right now. Clemson beat them 47-31, 55-31. Georgia Tech beat them. That's a game Deshaun Watson got hurt. 28-6, 43-24, 46-7, 24-10. So yes, Georgia Tech's been blown out by Clemson. But before that time, in 2012, there's been back and forth. 2011, Georgia Tech, 2010, Clemson. But before that, from 07 to 09, Georgia Tech has dominated Clemson. So, like I said, I would think people will look more at that rivalry and look how close some of those games have been.
So, of course, DeAndre,
like I said,
I was just going to say last off season, you'll remember that we were going year by year by year, carving through the results to give some perspective on the national championship race. It sounds like, if you recall that series, because you were kind of a fan of that and us dissecting different seasons, but it looks like this 1990 season might be an interesting one to look at. Of course, we know that Colorado only earned a share of the national championship based on winning a 5th down. I explained this actually just today to my son, that they received a fifth down, unbelievably. Otherwise, they would not have won the game. It's not like it happened in the third quarter and they scored a touchdown, so we don't know what would have happened. They would have lost the game. It was the final play of the game. It was the game-winning touchdown on 4th down, 5th down. So Colorado really lost 2 games and tied a game. So they would not have won the national championship. They probably shouldn't even put a banner up for that. So that when you think about it, there's really nothing even to argue there. They would not have won that game. So 1990 would be an interesting season to really dissect and research and comb through. Yeah, I see that Virginia loss in week 2, 20-17 or 20-7.
Virginia had beat them in like 20 years. And that was the first time Virginia ever beat them. That was Herman Moore and other Herman at the receiver position. Kirby at fullback for Virginia. Like I said, I mean that Clemson team was really good that year.
Lost 21-19, like you said, to Georgia Tech. And other than that, I don't know who Georgia Tech tied. I don't remember. I haven't looked it up yet.
North Carolina 10-10.
Okay.
North Carolina 10-10.
All right, you said that. Very nice. North Carolina was 6-4-1 that year. All right. Well, it obviously wasn't a great ACC. I'm trying to think. Georgia Tech and Clemson were clearly the 2 best teams. Probably NC State at 7-5 was next. Virginia was 8-4. Okay, interesting. Georgia was actually 4-7 that year.
Yeah, I think Clemson beat them 34-0 that year.
Georgia was 4-7. That didn't last long because they were good right before that. They weren't in a slump for that long though. Not that bad. They had some 7-5 type seasons, but I guarantee that's their only losing season. Because I think the year before they beat Michigan State and Andre Rison in the Gator Bowl in Vince Dooley's last game. Interesting stuff, DeAndre. What else is on your mind?
But yeah, that's that. And I would have heard you saying, and then you also got to look. And I told Pisky and Pete and them this too. Clemson doesn't recruit the state of South Carolina. When Clemson is good, they recruit Georgia and North Carolina and Florida very well. Because if you look at some of the best players in Clemson history, they don't never come from the state of South Carolina. They always come from outside the state. Terry Cuttle is from Lexington. Jeff Davis is from the Jacksonville area. So I bring that up to say this. Atlanta and Clemson is very close. I think Clemson is closer to Atlanta than it is to Columbia, and they recruit, Georgia Tech and Clemson recruits the same area. And I think that had a lot to do with Paul Johnson. I think that helped Clemson out when Paul Johnson only recruited a certain type of player that fit the system, because a lot of those guys went on to Clemson. Because Georgia Tech has always had great players. I mean, Megatron, Joe Hamilton, I can't remember the other guy, Reggie Ball.
Yeah,
they had some good players. So that's why I say I think people need to look at Clemson and Georgia Tech more than Florida State and Clemson or South Carolina Clemson, because Clemson's pretty much dominated South Carolina. There's very, very few memorable games that you can name outside of maybe when Hamilton pushed the push-off game versus South Carolina, and they never played with anything on the line. So, I mean, if you go look at Clemson and Georgia Tech, you'll find out there's some interesting games of both teams that have been ranked very highly in the season. I mean, people remember Paul Johnson, but they forget how good Georgia Tech was before Paul Johnson. But Mark, I'll let the other guys talk, man. I'm glad you're doing okay. You be safe up there, and all your listeners, they be safe too. And y'all take care, man. And I love the show as always. I'm glad I get a chance to listen to you.
Thanks for the good word, DeAndre. We appreciate it.
All right.
DeAndre also with a super chat contribution from BGPO Football Funk. We appreciate the contribution from DeAndre. DeAndre, one of our longtime callers. While DeAndre was on the phone, we had a couple calls come in, so just call us right back at 860-325-3687. There it is, 860-325-3687. Shop at Amazon. Somebody in the house shops, right? Hopefully you're doing well. I hope everybody out there, this is far more important than anything else that we're going to talk about tonight. Briefly, I just hope everybody's safe out there. Do the right thing. Be wise. Be safe. Don't panic. Don't be fearful. And if it causes you to panic or be in fear by watching the news or especially social media and all the reports that people throw out there, and half of them aren't factual. And I'm not the one to determine which ones are and which ones aren't. I just know that about half of them probably aren't. That just keep that in mind. It's good to be informed. I absolutely believe that it's good to be informed, but if it's causing you stress, you know what to do. Be wise, be safe, do all the right things in regards to keeping yourself from harm's way. And then if you've got to go out in public, what you need to do, but don't be fearful or panic about it. And if those things cause you to do so, stay away. All right, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mr. Mark Rogers, this is Ballard Sports Media. How are you tonight?
I'm doing just fine, Ballard. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I wanted to talk to you real quick, and I'm not sure. I know you get a lot of teams on, you know, when you do like your Miami and Ohio State and everything. But what are your thoughts? And I'm not sure if I missed this, and I'm not sure if you got this video, but what do you expect from them going into 2020?
Ballard, your call was crystal clear until about 10 seconds ago. So as soon as you started to ask your question, it was gone.
Oh, can you hear me clear?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. I was asking what your thoughts were on Penn State going into 2020. And do you think they have a chance? I know they get Ohio State at home, but do you think they have a pretty good chance to maybe get over that, you know, wall right there and try to, you know, maybe win the East in the Big Ten this year?
Well, think about how close they have come. I believe that it's much closer than most people really put into context. They beat Ohio State in 2016 and won the Big Ten. So they accomplished that in 2016 against an Ohio State team that was a top 5 or 6 team in the country. The next 2 seasons, as you probably will know, Penn State outplayed Ohio State for at least 3 quarters of both of those games.
That is true.
They were up 28-10 in Columbus in 2017, 28-10, sometime late third quarter, and they lost that game 39-38.
Yeah, they just haven't found a way lately to. And I've noticed this. They just have struggled against Ohio State.
Struggled?
When it comes
You think they've really struggled? I don't think they've struggled.
Well, like
they've played them toe to toe.
They can't finish off the game, is what I was trying to say.
Sure.
But outside of that, it's been kind of one of those back and forth shootout, you know, battles, and they've competed up until the final minute. And Ohio State's, you know, just like, you know, found a way to score late or get a stop or whatever. And I think Penn State will be a better team this year a little bit. I think they've recruited well the past couple of years, and I think they would probably have a decent shot to maybe get over that this year. But I wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, again, going back to what's happened in the past, I just don't think it's as large a mountain to climb as most people think it is. Yes, Ohio State is clearly the best program in the Big Ten. They have the best roster. They have the best depth. They have the best speed. They have the best everything in the Big Ten.
True.
But Penn State has taken them to a 1-point game 2 consecutive years after beating them in 2016. And then even this past season, yes, Ohio State was better this last year. They were decidedly better. And the game was 28-17. The game probably wasn't as close as the score would indicate. So this would be the one year that Ohio State beat them decidedly, didn't crush them, didn't blow them out by any stretch, but Penn State needed gifts.
Took control of the game most of most of the game.
Yeah, it was I believe 21-3 game, 21-3 or 21-0. And Penn State needed a couple of gifts to get back in the game and got to within 21-17. But they played Ohio State closer than anybody else did in the Big Ten. So that aside, I'm just giving you, and you already know, the history of the 4 years leading up to this. So if you talk to your standard college football fan about the Big Ten, they talk about Ohio State just being leaps and bounds better than anybody else. Well, Penn State's played them basically even on the field for 4 consecutive years. Now, in the recruiting game, it depends on what your judgment is between arguably the best class in the country year to year or a top 4 class in the country versus a top 8 to 10 class. What is that talent difference there? Because that's exactly what it is. That's the difference in talent right now between Ohio State and Penn State, is a top 4 class every year versus a top 8 to 10 class. As you mentioned, the game's in Happy Valley, very difficult place for Ohio State to play. They had to pull one out after being down by 12 2 years ago, 2 touchdowns by Dwayne Haskins in the final 5 or 6 minutes. And then 2 years before that in 2016, they lost. And Ohio State has a history of not necessarily not playing well, but it being a dogfight, rarely going in there and really taking care of Penn State. It should also be noted that it's not like Penn State's just jumped up on Ohio State and played well against them. Had Penn State won those games, they would have won the Big Ten. Granted, gone to the championship game, they would have won the Big Ten East 3 of the last 4 years, had they been able to hang on to a double-digit lead.
That is true, and you think, and Happy Valley, as I was fixing to say, is a really tough place to play, and also I think when it comes to a night game, that's the coolest looking stadium with the whiteout. And here's another question I got. As far as Alabama, first off, I saw the Bama preview video you did earlier. Good job with that, by the way. When do you think, if Bryce Young wins the starting job, I'm hearing a lot of talk he probably wins it in the Georgia game, or you probably get your starter name there. How soon do you see him becoming the starter?
That's a great question. That is a remarkable question. I think that this could be a decision that Nick Saban needs to make that is similar to the decision that Dabo Swinney made in 2018 with Trevor Lawrence backing up Kelly Bryant, and the decision that Urban Meyer could have made in 2016. Now, this is hindsight. JT Barrett was a good college quarterback, not great.
Oh, yeah.
But he set a ton of records because he just compiled numbers. So he's the all-time Big Ten. He's the all-time Big Ten record holder in passing yardage and touchdowns and rushing touchdowns by a quarterback, so forth and so on.
Right.
But Urban Meyer could have made the decision when he should have been able to determine we can go to a college football playoff or win the Big Ten and most likely get to the playoff with JT Barrett. But the difference between doing that and then winning the 2 next games that we need to win against elite competition is a different deal. Yeah. Dabo Swinney made that call in 2018 when they had just gone to the playoff again. When Kelly Bryant would have gotten them to a college football playoff, just like Trevor Lawrence did. But would they have won the college football playoff with Kelly Bryant at quarterback? Probably not. So Dabo Swinney didn't play a conservative. He determined this kid's dynamic. He's special. I'm going to look for the right moment. I am giving the benefit of the doubt to my longtime starter to say, you need to prove to me in the first 3 or 4 games of the season that you have improved your game to the level that we need you to beat elite teams. And when that hasn't been proven, even though I know we can make it to the college football playoff, that's not going to be good enough. We can do it with this kid. And that may be the decision that Nick Saban needs to make early in October.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, I appreciate you taking my call, and you do a really great job. Keep up the good work. And from a Bama fan, roll tide.
Thanks, Ballard. Appreciate it. Some questions in the live chat concerning how good Michigan was in the 90s. Michigan, to start the 90s, was the best program in the Big Ten. Ohio State had been down for a couple of years under John Cooper, taking over for Earl Bruce in 1988. Michigan was far and away the best program in the Big Ten. Tied for the Big Ten championship in 1990, went to the Rose Bowl in 92 and 93. Even in 91, with Iowa going to the Rose Bowl and losing, they were not the best team in the Big Ten. Michigan was the best program in a similar fashion to Ohio State now in the Big Ten. There was really no debate. Ohio State fielded its first really, really good team, like top 5 to 10 team in the nation in 1993. They tied for the Big Ten championship. They finished 10-1-1. They got drilled by Michigan. 1994, Ohio State beat Michigan. 1995, again, Michigan. Then during those middle years, 93, 94, 95, 96, in that range, faltered, 8-4 range. I could go through the exact records, but basically 8-4. Michigan was 8-4, and Ohio State had elevated under John Cooper. They could have won a national championship in 1993, 95, and 96, but lost to Michigan each one of those years. 1997, Lloyd Carr's second season, no, maybe like his third or fourth season. I'm trying to think when the Gary Moeller, Lloyd Carr transition came about. It's all running together now. Anyway, 1997, Ohio State and Michigan are both top 5 teams in the nation. Michigan beats them head-to-head, wins the national championship. 1998, Tom Brady at quarterback, lose to Ohio State. They're still really good, top 10 in the nation. Beat Arkansas in the Citrus Bowl, finish in the top 10. 1999, Tom Brady at quarterback, outduel Sean Alexander, who had the huge day on offense for Alabama at the Orange Bowl. Michigan ties for the Big Ten championship at 99, wins the Orange Bowl on a missed PAT by Alabama in overtime. Michigan finishes in the top 10. There's your rundown of Michigan football in the 1990s. Will Notre Dame make the playoffs this year? No, I don't see it. Notre Dame's major problem is that they have really good wide receiver play, but it's not elite down the field, stretch the defense, take the top off the defense type of wide receiver play. That's been one issue with Notre Dame football in trying to play with the elite. And any comments made before 10:13, I apologize. Those have been wiped out. I can't get to those to post those on the screen. Brody must be a Notre Dame fan. Of course, their main rival is USC. He will not stand a loss to USC to save the 2020 season. Brody, good to see you. Jordan says we don't really get that excited for Georgia Tech compared to South Carolina. Jordan obviously does still remember, unlike maybe some recent Clemson fans, that South Carolina owned that series just a few years ago. It's hard to believe right now, entering the 2020 season, with Clemson having played in 3 national championship games, 4 national championship games since 2015. Clemson has played in 4 of the last 5 national championship games and made the playoffs all 5 years. that just prior to that, they had lost 5 consecutive games to South Carolina, and South Carolina under Steve Spurrier had won 11 games and finished in the top 5 3 years in a row. As Eli states, Clemson owns South Carolina. Is that even a real rivalry at this point? Eli. Okay, hopefully you just took in what I just said. As recent as 2014, South Carolina, you could have made the claim the other way around and said, is this really a rivalry 5 years in a row? Yes, it's a rivalry. Eli, I'd rather be complaining about another inevitable, horrible Orioles season. Yeah, they've been really bad for a long time. Than complain about no Major League Baseball or any sports. Somebody between the beginning of the show and when I'm able to pick up the live chat there and post those comments, donated, gave to the super chat, and I can't tell who that is right now, but thank you so much for that. I will acknowledge that at a later date. So it looks like our next poll, our next Voice of College Football poll on Twitter is going to be, who is Clemson's biggest rival? Georgia Tech, Florida State, South Carolina. Some of our recent polls included who will be the next program, the next team to win a national championship that has not already won one in the playoff era. So eliminate Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, and Clemson. Who will be the next school to win a national championship in the playoff era? Got our Notre Dame show coming up, I believe, tomorrow night, Monday night at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, Florida State at 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Tuesday. I will remind everybody out there that we've got the Super Chat available. And also, if you would like to donate directly to Mark Rogers TV, the Voice of College Football, Venmo and PayPal, those links are down in the description section of any of the videos. And I don't do a whole lot of shopping, but I had to shop at Amazon just last night. And what did I do? I went to a video on my channel. I grabbed the link in the description section and used that link to do my shopping and gave that to my daughter to do some shopping. So whether that be you or whomever in your household is responsible for the shopping, get them that link. And of course, it helps us build the channel so we can do this more and more often and better. Catch the vision. Tomorrow morning, bright and early, you are going to see a video release. I had Ryan Cantor on the line from Shaking the Southland, you Clemson fans, with his college football realignment. All right. Then right after that, within the next week, I'm going to release videos with my realignment, my conference realignment of college football. A new Big Ten, a new ACC, a new Big 12, SEC, Pac-12, and maybe another conference. So please check out those videos and give me your feedback on my realignment of college football. It's coming. Had a conversation with Steve Dace from Michigan Podcast, who does not believe that there is a significant talent gap, talent difference between Ohio State and Michigan. I want to thank all of you for watching that video and commenting. We have pushed past 300 comments. This video was just posted on Friday. It's Sunday night. We're pushing 10,000 views and 300 comments talking Ohio State, Michigan talent gap. And because of that, that's given me an idea for a whole bunch of videos, probably involving your favorite teams. So, for example, in the SEC, Alabama under Nick Saban has owned the SEC over the past decade. Who is going to own the SEC for the next decade? There are arguments that can be made that it's still going to be Alabama. You can make the argument that Georgia and Kirby Smart is going to take over the SEC. Or how about Dan Mullen in Florida? How about LSU? Auburn, possibly. That's a difficult argument to make. But between those four, Alabama, LSU, Florida, and Georgia, who will own the SEC over the next 10 years after Nick Saban and Alabama have clearly owned the conference over the past 10 years? In the Big 12, Oklahoma has locked down the Big 12 almost every year since Mac Brown in Texas went to the national championship game in 2009 and lost to Alabama at the Rose Bowl. Since then, Oklahoma has owned the Big 12. Texas, and I'd have to run the numbers and look at the recruiting rankings, has basically out-recruited, based on the numbers, out-recruited Oklahoma. What does Texas have to do to overtake Oklahoma in the Big 12? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
Hey, McD, I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I have better moments, but I don't want to get into that. I mean, I just want 2022, honestly, in the race. A lot of tragic things. I'm not, and it's more than the coronavirus, but I'm doing okay. I'm holding up. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, but I'll get through it. But the reason why I'm calling you, Mark, is because I want to talk about a few things. One involving mail-in. But the first thing I want to talk about is this whole I'm not going to say, like, I don't know how to describe it, but a lot of people are saying the college football season is going to be reduced to just conference games. That's not happening. The college football season will happen in its entirety. It will not be canceled, nor there will be just conference games, because these schools, these FCS opponents, and even some of the Group of 5 opponents, have to have the college football season for them to basically make money. And because if not, they will go under. They will get rid of the football program, honestly. And so even I know there's been talks about the season starting in maybe January or maybe even February. Even then, that's probably your second option over just starting the season on time. Personally, I think you're just going to start the season on time with all 12 games and all the bowl games. But overall, you cannot. They're not going to cancel the season just because it's just not going to work out for these lower Group of 5 teams and the FCS schools. They're not going to allow it. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that you apparently know a whole lot more than I do. Now, if I were a betting man, then and I was forced to make a bet on this and somebody held a gun to my head, so the numbers are getting worse right now, but I don't believe the situation is getting worse. The numbers are basically just catching up with the testing. So I don't believe that the situation out there is getting worse right now, but I hope everybody out there hears me. I'm not claiming to be an expert. This is just what I'm basically just saying what I think. What I think is probably the case. is that, again, based on what I've heard, and I'm not one of these people that sit here with the news on 12 hours a day. I catch my little snippets. I just get some information, make sure that I'm kind of caught up and I'm up to date, but I just don't drown myself in that. And I make sure that I've got the best information in regards to what needs to be done for myself and my loved ones. Besides that, I think that the numbers are just catching up with what's actually happening out there. So I think we're going to see bad numbers continue to pile up for another month. And I think, and this is me being optimistic as well, that like you, I think we're going to be able to go to August camp. The first week of August. It might be a rush. It might be a mad dash, but I think that those college football teams are going to be able to get there. And there might be a situation where a Rutgers, for example, has to set up an off-site, off-campus location and use a high school or small college facility in Pennsylvania or somewhere. I'm just shooting from the hip because I do think that there are, obviously, this is going to be the issue, is that there are places in the country that are far worse than other places. And there needs to be equal preparation time for everyone. But I would guess that there's going to be a college football season, but I'm not going to be surprised if there's not, or I'm not going to be surprised if it's compromised, if it's shortened. But if I were a betting man, my bet would be we are going to see a full college football season.
I think we are too. Even if it's not till January. Now, granted, I think it's going to be the normal time, August 29th through the championship game in January, because I'm just being very honest. From everything I'm seeing, that June 1st seems like that date where it's going to be, everything's going to be okay. But hopefully they're correct. But I don't really want to get too much into that. But that's one thing that's really been getting on my nerves, because it's to me, these low group of 5 schools, FCS schools, cannot lose out on the money. And you're hearing reports from some of these FCS schools, at least, if they lose out on this money, they're going to have to shut down the football programs. So hopefully, hopefully they just come back normal time. And I hope there's fans in the stands as well. So hopefully we'll get that. But the main reason why I want to I'm calling you, Mark, is that Caleb Williams is going to be a University of Maryland Terp, as far as I'm concerned. He will be committed to the University of Maryland. He'll be starting immediately, and and everybody will have to take the Terps seriously once we get him, because we just got a big get on the defensive side, one of the top defensive ends. His name is escaping my mind. We just got him, and Mike Loxley is recruiting his butt off. I'm not sold on the coaching just yet. Even if Maryland only goes your projection 4-8 this year, if they get Caleb Williams starting in 2021, you gotta take them seriously, and every team does, because they're going to be that offense. I'm telling you, is going to be really good with Caleb Williams.
All right, so the kid that you're referring to, his name escapes me as well, so I'm looking up him right now. You're talking about this for 2020. Ruben Hippolito?
No, I'm talking the defensive end now of Quinn Orchard High School.
So this is a 2020.
I think of 2021.
Oh, you're talking 2021. Oh, yeah, I just saw that come down. So that just came down like maybe in the last few days, right? I saw that too.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Damian Robinson.
That's his name. Yeah. That's his name.
Damian Robinson, the second-rated defensive end in the country, 48th rated player in the country, number 3 player in the state of Maryland. So, yeah. High-end player, top 50 player in the country, regardless of position. Yeah, big-time recruit there. Now, there's Cameron Williams. So you're saying that he's on his way too?
I think he is. I mean, if you look, he dropped his top 5: Maryland, LSU, Oklahoma. I forget the other 2 schools, but LSU only has 2 quarterbacks set. I know Oklahoma has Spencer Rattler. I think he goes to University of Maryland because he wants to play right away. He's a local kid, and I think it's going to be a big get when we get him. I think you got to take them seriously. The Maryland Terps wants to get him.
Okay, I'll have to look into him. Cam Williams, quarterback. All right,
Williams.
Good stuff. All right, McD. Anything else, man?
I know you just brought it up before I called in. That guy that you had on the Ohio State Michigan video is probably one. I think he might be your best guy you bring on. Every time you have a video with him, I always walk away with either learning something new. They're very good videos. I mean, as a fan of Mark Rogers TV, I recommend that you have him on way more often.
Well, he's a busy guy. So his sports deal is that he writes for SI.com for the Michigan, I think it's Wolverine Illustrated. He's got his Michigan podcast. And then he also started a venture called the Bigger 10. You may want to check that out. They talk Big Ten football, Big Ten athletics, but mostly football. And I haven't really seen much of it, but it's another podcast that he does every week on Big Ten athletics called Bigger 10. And this is all in addition to his regular job. He's actually a political talk show guy in Iowa. So he knows he can talk. So that's pretty evident that the guy can talk. But Steve Dace does a great job. And I actually reached out to him not long after we posted that video to let him know that I would love to have him on for a live stream to take comments from the live chat and talk Michigan football with him and college football in general. He loves the sport top to bottom. And to have him actually on instead of just recording a piece, but to have him on for a live stream.
I would love to see that. I'm telling you, he's very good.
Definitely. That's why we have him on. Absolutely.
Absolutely. But Mark, that's all I really have for you. Thanks for taking my call. Hopefully you stay safe from this coronavirus. I mean, a lot of things are changing. For example, I was angry when I couldn't get hot cakes and sausage tonight for dinner from McDonald's because they're not serving breakfast for dinner anymore. But thanks for taking my call. Go Terps.
Thank you, McD. I hope things are better for you. We appreciate it. All right, folks, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Keep in mind all the content that we're putting out there for you, schedule previews, record projections. We've made our way through the Big Ten. Alabama was just released yesterday, and LSU and Auburn are coming up in the next couple of days. Also, a conference realignment discussion with Ryan Cantor from Shaking the Southland. His conference realignment is going to be released bright and early tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to dive in with my conference realignment with a new Big Ten, a new SEC, ACC, new Big 12, every conference being adjusted based on what makes sense from a football standpoint. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about academics. I don't care about basketball. I don't care about anything else except football sense. What makes sense for football historically, geographically, and for football on the field. So that's coming up starting next week after our video and discussion with Ryan Cantor from Shaking the Southland comes out tomorrow. Venmo, PayPal, you can see the links in the description section of any of the videos if you would like to donate directly to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Got our Twitter polls coming out almost on a daily basis. If you would like to submit a Twitter poll, if you want your question to be made out as a Twitter poll, then just simply follow me on Twitter. And I believe our next poll is going to be, who is Clemson's biggest rival? Florida State, South Carolina, Georgia Tech. Some of our recent polls have involved who is going to be the next school to win a national championship during the playoff era. Take out Clemson, take out Ohio State, take out Alabama, take out LSU. They've already won national championships in the playoff era. Who's going to be the next school? the next new school after, of course, LSU made the club 4 during the playoff era. Oregon, Oklahoma, Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Auburn. I would think that Georgia would be the most likely choice. Our call-in shows coming your way each and every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, our call-in show, mark it down each and every week. And of course, you can keep up with all the live streams by subscribing to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, turning on that bell so you get the notifications. Because of scheduling conflicts and trying to work it out with our guests, we cannot pin down a specific day and time for our Ohio State live show each and every week, nor our Miami show. Florida State, on the other hand, is every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and I don't necessarily want to consider it a full throttle every week show, but we have attempted to be consistent with Notre Dame talk every Monday night at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. There's our man, DeAndre, BGPO. I don't know, big something, big, I don't even know what that stands for. BGPO, Football Funk. Check out his channel on YouTube. I am way behind on these comments. My apologies. I made a list of content ideas today, and that is one of them right there. When will Nebraska be Nebraska again? What is that going to take? All right, I cannot keep up with all the banter in the live chat, and most of you are just talking to each other, which is great. I appreciate everybody on here. And for those of you who follow me on Patreon, can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for your contribution. Basically, you are just saying, hey, Mark, because of what you produce here on YouTube, we are going to follow you on Patreon, because right now on Patreon, there's nothing there. Except during the college football season, I provide my weekly college football predictions. And there's an offer. If you join us on Patreon, our Voice of College Football community, for an exclusive live stream each and every week, per your request, to bring you on to talk college football with me directly. So that is the deal on Patreon as we stand right now. Again, college football predictions each and every week, which again, we are a ways away from the season, so no great bonus there. But during the season, you get my college football predictions there and an exclusive live stream each and every week, including you talking college football with me directly. I am also shooting a video, kind of an insider look at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Going to shoot that video here in the next few days to let our Patreon folks know what we're up to, and so they can catch the vision, because I greatly appreciate their faith in me, their trust in me, their loyalty, and you as well, everybody out there right now. I believe that should just about do it. I don't see anything else in the live chat in particular. And certainly, I will wait to take any more phone calls at 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. And, of course, like the video. As Kyle has reminded everyone in the live chat, gotta like the video. Please do that. Venmo and PayPal are available if you want to see us grow and to build the channel. We've got an audio podcast that's released each and every Monday. Now I'm going to save you some time. Do not check out our audio podcast if you're looking for something different. The whole function and purpose of our audio podcast, which you can find on any of the major platforms, is to push people here. But if you would like to help out the channel, just run over to Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Music, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Look up Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please give me a rating through the roof. Give me a rating through the roof. Review it and subscribe. Then you can leave it alone. If you get us here at YouTube, you're not going to benefit from anything there, but I produce, as was suggested to me, as a way to build the platform here to go with an audio podcast, of which it used to be me basically stripping the audio from a lot of these discussions and sending those to the audio side. But now I just release one audio podcast every Monday morning. And I kind of reconfigure some things to kind of form a theme. So, for example, last week was, I think, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State recruiting. So I form a theme. The week before it was recent news in the ACC. And I put that together, but I do it to say, hey, this is just a slice, just a sliver, just a taste of what we do on YouTube. So get on over to YouTube to join us there. David Greenshield, good to see you tonight, sir. Yeah, Mark, it would be awesome if you could get a regular time for Buckeye Talk. It would be, but it does not look like it's going to happen. Now, in the last several weeks, because of what's going on and what everybody's going through with the quarantine, we've all been able to get together on Friday at noon Eastern time the last few weeks for Ohio State football talk. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Nate.
Hey, Nate. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, one, I want to be Ohio State. Every Ohio State fan says they're going to be Michigan every year, but they don't know the score's going to be. They don't know the future of the rivalry. They don't know, like the predictions. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know what's going to happen. Like, it's like, so, for example, if Michigan beats Ohio State, for example, and kicks a field goal, makes it 31-28, for example, score. See, that made me a miracle, but that's not my prediction. I'm just saying, like, you never know what the score's going to be. That's what I'm saying. So, I'm just saying that. Well, how have you been doing?
I'm good, Nate. I appreciate you asking. These are unusual times, but certainly nothing that we can't get through. So everybody just needs to be smart and safe and do the right things not panic, do the right things, and again, we'll make it through this. So I hope everything's going well in your household.
My house is pretty good. And it's just, and it kind of makes me mad that I know Ohio State things like to brag that scores. So, like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, if no one knows what the score's going to be.
Well, this is
right?
nobody even knows that Ohio State's going to beat Michigan this year.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because
they probably will, but we don't know that.
Yeah. But a lot of fans of Ohio State, yes, they know, say they know, but they don't know.
Nate, how long have you been watching college football?
Well, I've been watching you about a year.
Oh, you've been watching me for a year. How long have you watched college football? About a year?
Oh, yeah. No. Well, I thought you meant the you. Okay. I've been watching since I was like, let's see, since I was 7. So that'll be, I don't know what year that would be. Yeah, since I was 7. I don't know what year that would be, but you know.
Have you
I've been watching.
Have you seen Michigan beat Ohio State?
Yes, once. When D. Robinson.
Sure.
Yeah.
When Michigan, had a good season. They went 11-2 that year. They won the Sugar Bowl, beat Virginia Tech. Braxton Miller was the quarterback at Ohio State. So that was when Ohio State was between head coaches, between Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer.
Yeah. Sorry, Ohio State fans.
Well, you know, as a Michigan fan, Nate, there is hope. So there has been a time in the past, it's been over 15 years now, but that Michigan was better than Ohio State. So you can just hold out hope that those days are going to return.
Yeah, I said hope. I have hope in the chat for this year. Just hope. But we don't know.
And you're a good sport for taking all that ridicule and abuse from Buckeye fans.
Yes, I know. I respect them. But when it comes to the game, I kind of get a little mean. Little. But it's been nice talking to you, Mark.
All right, Nate.
Just want to say that.
Thank you so much for the call.
Right.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us on these live streams.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Our man Nate, Michigan fan, long-suffering Michigan fan, who's holding on to that 2011 win over that interim head coach, Luke Fickell, and that 6-6 Ohio State team. Of course, Michigan looked primed 2 years ago to finally end the drought. They were a 4-point favorite in Columbus. By any measurement going into that game, Michigan should have been the better team. Each team had one loss. Michigan had lost to Notre Dame. Ohio State had lost that awful game to Purdue. Ohio State was giving up yards and points by the truckload. Just beat Maryland barely, 52-51 in overtime. If you looked at any of the games with common opponents between Ohio State and Michigan in 2018, Michigan played much better against any of those opponents than Ohio State did. And then Michigan went to Columbus and got shellacked. It's really beyond the talent gap. And there is a decided, I told Steve Dace of Michigan Podcast this the other night during our conversation, because he thinks that Ohio State has better talent, but he doesn't think that it's substantial, that it really matters. Because he points and he's run the numbers. He's just not coming up with a theory without running numbers and doing research and giving it some thought and putting logic to the numbers. He's going back to the 80s, to the 90s, times in which Michigan owned the series, not to the degree. Michigan is never, going back to the beginning of time when they won the first 12 games of the rivalry, and still own a 7-game lead. So it's dwindling quickly, but Michigan still owns the series, I believe 58-51. That there were times during the 80s and 90s in which Michigan had the upper hand in the series. They didn't own it the way Ohio State does right now. They won in 88, 89, 90, 91. There's 4 straight. Tied in 92, won in 93. So they had a 5-0-1 stretch there. They won in 95, 96, 97. That's 3 straight. They lost in 98. Ohio State won that game, but then Michigan came back and won in 99 and 2000. So that's 5 out of 6. So Michigan had runs like that, but nothing close to what Ohio State's done. 14 out of 15, and the 1 year can almost be excused. They still fielded teams and played the game, and Michigan won fair and square. But with an interim coach between the Jim Tressel dominance over Michigan in winning 9 out of 10 years and the last 7 in a row, and then, of course, Urban Meyer and Ryan Day. All right, folks, we appreciate you joining us again. We're going to be here each and every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time for a call-in show each and every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. The other call-in show that I've dedicated myself to is Fridays at noon Eastern Time, unless, which has been the case for the past few weeks, that's the only time we can do our Ohio State live show, and so that takes the place of our call-in show Fridays at noon. But we'll be here every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, every Friday at noon. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Well, how's it going, Mark? It's Graham.
Hey, Graham, how are you?
I'm good. So I had a question I wanted to ask. So I noticed that Anthony Brown transferred from Boston College to
Yeah.
Oregon. And as an Ohio State fan, we play him week 2. In your opinion, will Anthony Brown now be the automatic starter over the young guy?
So we just posted a video yesterday or the day before with our guy James Voss from Austin Zoo. It would be my thought that Anthony Brown would walk onto campus and have to lose the job. He's thrown 40 touchdowns at Boston College. He's been the starter for 2.5 years. He's been a good quarterback, a better than average quarterback. According to the Oregon guy, though, James, he thinks that Tyler Shook is still going to be the starter at Oregon with no experience.
See, my only thing is I wouldn't think, since guessing Anthony Brown is a graduate transfer and has 1 year left.
Yeah.
Why would he transfer to Oregon if he was not going to be the starter? Why wouldn't he go
Exactly.
where he would be the starter?
Exactly. So as soon as I saw that news, I thought he's going to be the starter, unless obviously he tanks and Tyler Shook is the next Trevor Lawrence. They're not going to just play him to play him because they made a promise to him. But he made that decision based on the level of the program. Obviously, he's going to one of the 10 or 15 best programs in the country right now, but also with a pretty good read of the situation. And now, even with the situation being altered to a certain extent with no spring practice, that actually helps Anthony Brown's case. But as an Ohio State fan, I wouldn't be that concerned about Anthony Brown. He's a good player, but he's nothing dynamic, nothing great. He's mobile. He can run. He's become a better passer. He's improved as a passer each season, but he's still not. He's a top 30 or 40 quarterback in the nation.
So I would think with no spring practice, that would actually help the young guys over Anthony Brown because he wouldn't have any idea of the offense.
Well, you could put it that way, but they also don't have any experience, and he's got the experience. He's played ACC football for 2.5 years.
Exactly. I don't know if you know who Johnny Johnson is, the receiver for Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
I actually, I used to live in Phoenix, Arizona, and he went to a high school called Verado High School, and I used to go to Verado High School, and he transferred from Verado to Chandler, so he's a really good player.
Yes, he is. Oh, yeah, Johnny Johnson. Although I've got to admit, as soon as you said Johnny Johnson, I thought of the old Los Angeles Rams defensive back from the late 70s, early 80s, because that's how my mind works. But yeah, I definitely know who Johnny Johnson is, and I've watched a lot of Oregon football. I usually see them play 5 or 6 times a year, so I've seen Johnny Johnson play quite a bit.
Yeah, I thought he kind of became a terrific player down the stretch. He was their go-to receiver.
Yeah, I can't say that I really recall that, but certainly I've seen him play, and he's a good player. I'm curious to see his numbers here last season, because if you would have asked me going into the season athletically, even though he had a lot of drops at Penn State his last year there, Juwan Johnson was the guy that gained a lot of attention and seemed to be the best player athletically. But as you see here, yeah, Johnny Johnson had 57 catches and 7 touchdowns. So he by far, well, not by far, Jalen Redd had 50 catches and 7 touchdowns as well. But yeah, Johnson had the best receiving season on the team, coming off 17 catches the year before. So he's coming into a senior season, 57 catches last year, 836 yards, 7 touchdowns. Yep.
So I think I talked with you a little bit last time we talked about Oregon, Ohio State, and in my opinion, I think Oregon's going to have a top 5 defense if they return a lot of guys who will be going to the NFL after this coming year. And I believe that if Oregon can get some sort of a quarterback figured out, I think Oregon is a very good team. They got Verdell returning at running back as well.
Absolutely. Their question marks are quarterback and replacing 4 offensive linemen.
Yeah, that is right, the offensive line.
They have one of the best in the business, Penn Sewell, coming back. Mario Cristobal has been very determined to make that a strong point for Oregon. He's recruited extremely well along the offensive line. So I would not be surprised if they were able to maintain that level of play, similar to what Oklahoma did a couple years ago when they lost 4 out of their 5 that won whatever the award is for the best offensive line in the country, and they came back just as good the next year.
Exactly. And then, yeah, I think that Mario Cristobal kind of took, when Chip Kelly was there, it was kind of, the speed kills. They weren't really pound it down your throat type offense. It was more of let's get it to a guy and he's gone. I think Mario Cristobal kind of took the exact opposite way to it. But he's still doing a fantastic job.
Yes, he is. And now with Chris Peterson leaving the conference at Washington, where Washington looked to be the best program in the conference just a couple of years ago. And of course, USC, by most standards, should be, but they're not. That Oregon is clearly, not that it can't change quickly, because it does. We all know that. But right now, it's the best program in the conference. I don't think there's really any argument about it. They've had the 2 best recruiting classes the last 2 years. And obviously, they just won the conference and won the Rose Bowl.
Do you think Oregon, if they can keep it together, is in prime position to do what Clemson and Ohio State have done to their respective conferences?
That's a great question. I guess it is possible that they could be that good, because there's really nobody in that division. It's a good division. It's the better of the 2 divisions. Of course, Stanford's been really good, but They only won 4 games last year. What is going to happen with Stanford football? Is this just a blip on the radar? But Stanford's not even been the Stanford of late Jim Harbaugh, early David Shaw the last few years. Now, they were still winning 8 games, but they wouldn't challenge in Oregon if Oregon's going to be as good as they were last year. Washington in that transition between with Chris Peterson leaving. Washington State, you would expect to take a step back. Cal's interesting. Justin Wilcox is an excellent coach. They're interesting, but not at that level. So I think what you're outlining is not far-fetched, that Oregon could dominate that conference.
Well, I think the team that's in best position to maybe challenge Oregon.
Yeah.
I give a lot of credit to Herm Edwards. I think Arizona State recruited pretty well last year.
I follow you. I'm right there with you. Yep. I can see that. And think about when Oregon, I don't want to say dominated the Pac-12, but was the best program in the Pac-12 when Chip Kelly was there. He went 33-3 in his tenure there in conference. So that's pretty dominant. Stanford was the challenger, and it was pretty much just Stanford. That Stanford program doesn't exist anymore. The one that gave Oregon fits and kept them from winning national championships around, 2010, 2011, 2012, in that range. And of course, they went to a national championship game against Auburn. So that program doesn't exist right now in the Pac-12. So it's even more feasible for this scenario to play out the way you're talking about right now, that Oregon could dominate the Pac-12.
So do you think the 4th team, and then the other question I had was, do you think the 4th team that can make the playoff, I think Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State are right now on paper probably going to be in if they play the way we know that they can. Do you think it would be the winner of the Pac-12 possibly in Oregon, or the winner of maybe that Florida-Georgia game when they play each other?
So if Oregon loses to Ohio State, they obviously can't slip up anywhere else.
Exactly.
The Florida-Georgia winner, I'm trying to think if there are any other. Of course, Florida still has to deal with LSU. Georgia still has to deal with Auburn in the other division, and a game against Alabama. So Georgia's got Alabama, Auburn, and Florida. And I'm trying to think who Georgia has to deal with in the non-conference this year. If there's anybody, Virginia, they should be fine there. Florida's got a game against Florida State, of course, and I don't think that they've got another difficult non-conference game. So my money would be on the Georgia-Florida winner.
Well, I would say in the SEC, you just have more margin for error because you have a lot better games on your schedule than a Pac-12 team.
Absolutely. And with Oregon having to play Ohio State, not that it's an automatic loss by any stretch. They're going to put up a fight. They're going to be at home. But they've pretty much given themselves, it's probably a 70 or 75% certainty that they're going to lose that game. And now they can't lose another game. Yeah, they have to be at least one game better than the team in the SEC.
Exactly. And then the one last thing I had left before I go was I think the scary thing is I think Georgia probably has the best defense year in and year out in the country. I think Kirby Smart recruits elite players on that side of the ball, and he focuses on that side of the ball today. And I think if Georgia, just imagine if Georgia could have kept Justin Fields. I think they could be doing to the SEC what Ohio State's been doing to the Big Ten.
Yeah, for one particular season or two, yeah. But if you look at the status of the program, it's not like Georgia's far and away better, like Ohio State separated overall. But yeah, you're right in putting the quarterback, who's one of the top 3 or 4 in the nation, together with the defense. Yeah, they could have been lights out last year and this year. But Ohio State could possibly just continue to own the Big Ten year after year after year after year. I'm not saying they're going to, but it wouldn't surprise anybody. Whereas nobody expects Georgia to. The programs in the SEC are just too good, I think, for any one particular program just to dominate. There's just too many good teams.
Well, and I think that personally, Georgia and Kirby Smart, not saying they didn't get rid of Justin Fields, but the fact that they didn't give him much of an opportunity, I think Justin Fields really started Ryan Day's career and just really gave him a lightning bolt. To have success now at Ohio State year in and year out.
Sure.
I think Fields is a reason of why they could be recruiting at a high level, because now these players want to see, look what's going on at Ohio State. Let's go join.
Kirby Smart did not make the move that I mentioned Dabo Sweeney made and Urban Meyer did not make in quarterback decisions. He went the safe route, and there's nothing wrong with Jake Fromm. He's a good player, and he's going to make a lot of money in the NFL. But Kirby Smart could have thought, okay, do I go with a safe selection of the guy that's taken a zillion snaps and I'm going to win 11 games and I've got a shot to win the whole thing? Or, you know what? Justin Fields might screw up and we might go 9-3, but we might win the whole thing because he might be as good as he's supposed to be with the bullets firing. And he probably should have made that decision.
Well, and Kirby Smart also had a chance at 3 years of Justin Fields, whereas Ohio State, we really only have one more year, I'm assuming.
Sure.
Just in 3 years, I couldn't imagine how good that kid could be.
Yeah.
Even in 2 years, I think they're going to see I think Fields is incredible. I think he's far and away better than Dwayne Haskins. I don't like to let the long shot to say, because I think Haskins has a generational arm. But Fields just does a lot of other things that Haskins couldn't. Absolutely.
Yeah, just imagine Justin Fields, had he played, what we saw last year was as a player who, would step on the field for 4 or 5 plays a game, but wouldn't be allowed to throw a meaningful pass downfield. And so this is the first time that he's playing against competition on the field, and he throws 41 touchdowns with 3 picks. Yeah, exactly. He may be that much better next year. And as you well know, his running, the dimension of his running was compromised down the stretch.
Yeah, and that play where he came off the bench after he hurt his knee at Michigan and made that incredible throw in the back of the end zone to Garrett Wilson off the run, that was kind of the play where I said, all right, yeah, this guy's possibly going to be the number 1 pick in the 2021 draft.
Yeah, it was a great throw.
This guy's looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mark.
All right. Thank you so much, Grant.
Yep, you have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, folks. This is what we do each and every day as we talk the game we love with you, hardcore college football fans who love it just as much as we do. Please help us out by liking the videos. Please like the videos. Leave us comments. We're running a series in which we are projecting the records and previewing the schedules of all the teams in the Power 5. We finished up the Big Ten. We released Alabama today. LSU's coming up tomorrow. Leave your record projection in those videos. Shop Amazon using the link in the description section of the videos. Join us on our audio podcast. And again, because you join us here, you're doing me just basically a favor. By going over there, just subscribe. You don't have to pay any attention. Go to Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple, whatever your audio podcast of choice. Look us up, subscribe, rate us through the ceiling, and give us a review. And, of course, join me on Twitter as well. if you really want me to follow you on Twitter, I will. You'll just have to poke me. Just let me know. Hey, Mark, you said you would follow me on Twitter. Otherwise, just follow me on Twitter. I got into it with a few people today, but that's not normally what I do. So you're not. I am full disclosure here. I will always tell you where I'm going to deliver the goods and where I'm not. I'm going to deliver the goods here on YouTube, on Twitter. I'll get into a decent discussion here and there, but I am not a Twitter guy. I am just asking because you are helping me by following me on Twitter, by joining us on Patreon for the Voice of College Football community. You are helping build the channel. For right now, again, full disclosure, full honesty, I always shoot straight with you. It's not helping you at all. You are basically saying, Mark, we love what you do here on YouTube in delivering content like nobody else, 150 videos a month. So I'm going to sign up on Patreon, because basically what that is nothing right now, because I don't have the time to deliver, but I will. And the next thing you're going to see on Patreon is going to be an insider look of what I do here. So you're going to see all sorts of like, what are we doing here? Let's see. I just bought this thing and I posted that and put it up. And I just, I really didn't know, okay, what is this thing going to look like? I tried it out online. I did a little mock-up. I thought, how big should it be? And I went with 6 feet by 4. And I kind of estimated, and I wish I would have made it, ordered it larger, but it cost $260, so I didn't want to go too much larger than that. What do we do with the helmets? How is this going to look? What should the angle be? Let's see. And hopefully I don't like trip or pull a plug or whatever, but how should we do this? I'm constantly looking. So I got the lights here and there. I'm not a lighting expert. What do I need to do with that? And should I get another light? I think there should be another light right in the middle. And how is this going to look better? And I saw something on YouTube just the other day where somebody had the type of sign that you see in a restaurant or bar, where it looks almost like a picture. It's almost like in a frame, but it's lit. It's backlit. You know what I'm talking about? And I just envisioned my logo in there, the Voice of College Football, and maybe something about that big, and just bam, lit up. And then I also play with, should I put a monitor here? This one's not going to be large enough, probably, but do I get a monitor here? And I'm still trying to figure out, I shouldn't say it that way because I haven't taken any time to figure it out, but I'm thinking about trying to figure out, do you guys ever watch music reaction channels where people watch a music video, then they react? And so they have the music video here. And then I've also seen some sports channels, some football channels where they'll watch games. They'll watch highlights. I want to do that here. So that's a thought. Or do I put my logo in here, or do I run, do I take a flash drive of the Penn State Michigan game and put it in there while I'm talking about Penn State and Michigan? Just all sorts of stuff I'm thinking of all the time. Yeah, we'll leave that over there. And as I've complained about a zillion times to all of you, but I'm going to do it again. This is what I bought. This is what I purchased to make the call-in process what it should be, where actually the calls go through the phone, go through this system, and I can hear them, and you can all hear them as well as I can. And I can also use my mic, but it's not hooked up correctly. It's not working. All right. So that's just a taste, just a touch of what I'm thinking of. Yeah. All right, everyone. We appreciate it. You guys are talking about gas, so I think we need to move on. I am going to go eat. And I will see everybody back here for Notre Dame Football Talk live at 6 o'clock Eastern Time on Monday. In the meantime, check out the videos. We had a great discussion with Steve Dace from Michigan Podcast, Ohio State, Michigan. What's the talent gap? First thing in the morning, conference realignment. Then our LSU schedule preview and record projection coming out at noon tomorrow. See y'all later. Thank you so much for the contribution. For the likes, press the like button. Bam, bam, bam. And we'll see you soon.